Welcome to Citizen McCain. I'm your host, Megan McCain. Here, as always, is my co host, Miranda Wilkins. We just want to give two quick housekeeping reminders to please don't forget to raise your digital hand if you want to ask a question. And also, if you are listening on the podcast, and we understand many of you are still listening on the podcast, which warms my cold, dark heart. I'm so happy about that. But just a reminder, if you're listening on the podcast, you can watch it on video too by going to youtube.com/@CitizenMcCain YouTube. So, if you feel like I do that with YouTube shows, like I'll put it on in the background when I'm like getting ready, doing my makeup, whatever. Normally they are two-way Mark Halperin news shows or it's fashion related ones, to be quite honest, Miranda.
It's so weird that I put on our own show just to see how we're doing. I try to watch it from like a different
No, I
perspective.
appreciate that. Get those
Is
clicks
that
up.
weird?
Yeah, get those clicks up, Miranda. So we have Leigh Ann Caldwell, who is the Washington chief correspondent at Putt, coming on, and you just Ashley let us know when she's in our digital waiting room. Miranda, I have to be really honest with you. We are going to talk obviously about all these new Biden health updates and the book tour from hell that keeps on going. Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's
It's been like one
original
day.
Sin book. Yeah, I feel like we're just gonna be talking about this book for forever.
Yeah.
Um, and they've been everywhere. They were on Megyn Kelly yesterday. They were on Morning Joe this morning, just making the rounds, on with Katie Couric. There's a lot of new information coming out in general. But I just want to show one quick tweet. Naomi Biden, if people don't know, is President Biden's granddaughter. She was a very prominent figure during the Biden administration, and I just want to show really quickly a tweet she put out yesterday calling the book silly and fairy smut for the chattering class, unoriginal, uninspiring lies written by irresponsible, self-promoting journalists out to make a quick buck. And for people that don't know, I want to show these pictures of her. She had a White House wedding. I think she was like the first person to have a White House wedding in like 60 years, I think since Trisha Nixon Cox, if I remember correctly. And she had a beautiful Vogue cover with First Lady Jill Biden. I think we have those photos right here. Lovely. I thought her wedding dress was quite beautiful.
Yeah.
Um,
Incredible. Stunning
yeah.
pictures. Beautiful wedding. Wow.
So I have been, we have been critical of President
Mhm.
Biden, but I think also with like always an element of compassion because both of us, I don't think I think he's a good man
I
ultimately.
voted for him and I happily voted for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I care deeply about President Biden.
I just keep thinking right now about obviously, and I've been there because there's been a ton of books written about my dad and my family that I didn't think were fair or honest, or they were told through the lens of a disgruntled staffer. And it's always like when a presidency is over or when you lose a campaign, everyone's a genius except the candidate. Everyone did everything right except the candidate. And I was thinking, Naomi Biden and the Biden family are more than likely in Delaware. I don't know that for a fact, but I am assuming they're in Delaware. Their grandfather that they love, who is the patriarch of their family, is about to get, I assume, extremely serious cancer treatment because his diagnosis is extremely serious. He has stage 4 pancreatic cancer that's metastasized to his bones. Anybody that knows anything about cancer, it's not a great diagnosis, particularly at his age. And while they're trying to like grapple with the fact that he's going to die and he's going to get cancer treatment, I assume chemotherapy and, and I don't know, and I'm not a doctor, but I assume it'll be very serious treatment and he will get sick. They're having to deal with this book tour. And I know that they came out with a statement about President Biden having cancer. A lot of people are interpreting it as, sort of a way to like take attention away from the book. But I just feel sad today. I feel, I've been there in a different way. I mean, the world wasn't writing tell all books when my dad was sick, but like this whole voyeuristic ripping apart of everything President Biden has ever done or said, and he's just this like horrible monster. I don't know. It still feels quite icky to me. Jake Tapper's book has felt icky to me for a while. This reporting is reporting I would have loved to have heard in real time when these people knew it. And Alex Thompson, to his credit, did come on our show and say things
Mhm.
in real time. But all of this information is stuff I should have known a lot earlier. Right now, as President Biden's getting cancer treatment, I assume he's getting cancer treatment. Again, I don't know any of this for a fact. We also have to dig through all of this. Do you feel icky about any of this, too? Or are we just completely alone? You, me, and my mother, completely alone in this sentiment right now.
I don't think we're alone. I think that most rational people and people with a soul feel gross that this is being picked apart as some kind of entertainment spectacle, because it's not. And I think that Anybody who's trying to find a kernel of truth in this doesn't need verification from Jake Tapper. I think that anybody with eyeballs has seen this over the course of the last 2 years, and we don't need verification from Jake. I mean, we saw it. It's a relief to hear that, yeah, we were being gaslit by the top people at CNN over the last, couple of years, because you and I have been reporting this. Other conservative media people have been reporting this. And Megyn Kelly, to her credit, did hold his feet to the fire in that interview. And it was more about his irresponsible journalism than the sensationalism of the book. Because she's like, I've been reporting this. Other people have been reporting all this stuff over the last 2 years. And, you called us liars and crazy conspiracy theorists. So what do you have to say about that? I think it's disgusting that now this is being rolled out as some sort of cash grab at the expense of this entire family's pain and suffering. I think it's gross.
Leanne has now entered our chat. We're very excited. Leanne Caldwell was a chief Washington correspondent at Puck. You can find her on X at LA Caldwell DC and Instagram Leanne Caldwell DC. Leanne, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I love your work. My dad was a huge fan of your work. I know you're friends with him and been working on Capitol Hill a long time. We were just talking about what everybody's talking about this book. And I don't know if it's just my personal connection, my personal experience. I feel really bad for President Biden right now, and I feel bad for his family. Um, what is the feeling from your reporting on Capitol Hill from Democrats? Because I feel like there's just this like punch on them, there are questions that should be answered. There are things that we should know, but I don't know. I feel weird about it. I feel weird. I don't know. I think it's just my personal experience, but what's the feeling on among Democrats? Oh, can we hear you?
Um, if you guys can hear me, I can't hear anything yet.
Oh, okay.
Oh
So
no.
hold on while
Okay.
I figure
You
this
just gave
out.
her
No
a
It feels
problem.
beautiful
like you might
question.
be talking to me.
The era of Zoom. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
That's okay. So anyway, I think that, given President Biden's prostate cancer being so advanced, I don't know. Do you think that he's going to get
Oh wait, she
serious?
can hear us
Oh,
now.
okay,
Okay.
great.
I
All
Okay.
right,
can hear
really
now.
quick.
I was like
Leanne,
vamping. Ah.
we were just saying, first of all, thank you so much. I'm such a fan of your reporting. I've been a big fan of your reporting for a long time. You were friends with my dad. I feel like I've known you so long. I love your work at Puck. We've been talking about just this book that everyone's talking about, Original Sin by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. And look, I like a good tell-all as much as everybody else, and I want to know information about possible cover-ups and all the information that we were not told during the administration. But I also came into the show this morning just feeling really sad for the Biden family and feeling like it's just really awful that a tell-all book is out at the same time he's getting cancer treatment. I know there's a lot of people in conservative media who will be very angry at that, saying, Megan, we deserve to know. We can talk about it any way you want. Certainly true. But do you have any reporting or feeling about Democrats, the response to this? Like, do other people feel sort of like melancholy about all? There's something about that just feels really icky.
Yeah. Well, first, Megan, thanks for having me on your show. I was so thrilled when you asked. Yeah, it's such an odd time because a lot of the Democrats I talk to are very sad for Joe Biden while they're also wrestling with the entire political situation that has caused Democrats a lot of angst, a lot of heartburn, and led to a lot of distrust of voters of the Democratic Party. But one thing is that it has really clouded Joe Biden's legacy, which I think is part
Mhm.
of the saddest thing about this. He has had a 50-year career, a very tumultuous but successful career. And now this is what everyone is talking about when he should be, kind of riding the sunset and enjoying his life, and dealing with this cancer diagnosis. But it's just been, it's like Democrats have a ton of mixed feelings about this.
Yeah, I think it's just I can't imagine dealing with cancer at the same time like a tell-all book's out. And I know that like timing wasn't intentional and or I don't, how could they have known that he was going to announce that?
Yeah.
But is there any feeling among Democrats? I was watching an interview with Chuck Schumer, with Mayor Pete, and with Elizabeth Warren, and all three of them were asked about like basically what they knew about President Biden's health and when. None of them had great answers. Do you think this is going to be a major question going into 2028 for people that were associated with the administration?
So I've been thinking about that a lot actually. And I don't know in 3 years from now if Joe Biden specifically is going to be an issue heading into 2028 and what people knew or didn't know about Joe Biden at that time. I think that when you take the macro look at this, it's more about that trust with the party and trust in what the party is selling and telling voters. You know, there the mistrust is really, I think, central here. Voters feel like they've been fleeced, like they've been lied to. Democrats, depending on the Democrat, they all have their own different stories of what they knew and what they perceived and how much they wanted to admit. And I think that, of course, hindsight creates a different reality. When we were all going through, the last couple of years of the Biden administration, like now we know all that we know. It's very easy to go back and be like, oh, we should have known more as journalists, as I think the Democrats are saying too. But you also, especially the Democrats, they lived in their own kind of reality and justification. And there were very few people who saw him on a daily basis outside of his very tight crew of advisors of Donilon and Klain. So it's just this really weird mix of what people knew then, what they know now, and how that is clouding their judgment of what they knew then. And then when it comes to 2028, I think it's just this bigger issue of voters have lost trust with the Democratic Party because of this, but also because of a whole host of reasons, including they feel like they're elitist and, tied to big donors and that people feel forgotten. So I think it's more complicated than Joe Biden, but I think that the overarching theme will matter.
Miranda, do you want to get in here before we move on from Joe Biden? Because I have two more questions aside from Joe Biden to ask you, Leanne.
And I don't know if this is stepping on any of your questions, but how do the Democrats move forward from this? If or like, does Mayor Pete come out and say, "Yeah, we knew, and everybody told us just to keep our mouth shut about it"? Like, do they just practice like radical honesty moving forward, or just try to stop gaslighting? What's the pathway?
Yeah, that's a great question. And they're trying to figure that out. I mean, some of the Democrats I've talked to said, look, we are literally not talking about this anymore. We are trying to move on. We just like want to get beyond this. And so I don't know if there's going to be any sort of, Democratic, uh, you know, view or coming to terms of what happened. I think it's going to be individual. I think it's circumstantial. And I think that they're going to try to change the subject as much as possible and literally talk about the future and not the past.
Leanne, you cover Capitol Hill very closely, obviously. There was a recent poll that showed that AOC is the lead by far, who Democratic voters consider to be the head of the Democratic Party and the leader of the Democratic Party. Do you think that's accurate? Do you think she understands the kind of power she's yielding in the country right now? Even not to expose you, Ashley, but my producer Ashley here loves her. There's a lot of women in my life who are younger than me. I'm 40, who really, even if they're on the right, like really are drawn to her for a lot of different reasons. Do you think that's accurate, or do you think that's just like something people are saying in polling?
So I think that polling with the base, I think that it is accurate. I think that the base does like her, and she really appeals to base voters. She is seems authentic, which is obviously a very big thing right now. She shows that she's trying to fight the, in whatever form that looks like. She is trying to channel people's anger, not only about Trump, but about the Democratic Party generally. And so I think that with the base voters, I think it is accurate. When you get to the more independent, centrist voters, I think that it's a completely different story, and I think that there's a lot of challenges that she has, including if she decides to run for Senate in New York. There's a lot of conventional wisdom is that she's not going to be able to win statewide, even in blue New York. So we'll see. But I think that she is very aware of
Mhm.
the role that she is playing in the party right now. She is very strategic. She has been working over the past few years to remake her persona from being just a bomb thrower to someone who builds coalitions even inside of Congress, and be seen as more effective as a lawmaker, and to build kind of the support of the democratic infrastructure that would be necessary for her to move on. Um, so I do think that she is very aware, and this is very, very purposeful, even though if her future path isn't completely decided yet.
Hmm. Yeah, she's definitely trying to calm down her original persona as a flamethrower. That's very obvious. Another topic that we are very interested in is Elon Musk in general. And I was actually really surprised. I want to show you this clip of Elon Musk. He was interviewed yesterday and he was asked basically if he will continue being involved in funding politics. Number 13, please.
Going to continue to spend at that kind of level on future elections?
I think in terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough.
Is it because of blowback?
Well, if I see a reason to do political spending in the future, I will do it.
Okay, so there's also a really interesting article in Politico talking about how basically like he is now completely gone from DC. I know Puck has done some serious reporting on this as well. Everybody's curious what happened to Elon Musk. He in the recent polling, he's down that only 57%, I'm sorry, 57% of Americans disapprove of him, and negative 20% of people approve of Tesla, which is like really bad. What do you think happened? I never thought his reign in DC was like long for wear.
Yeah, I know everyone was, but what's interesting is everyone thought that Trump and Elon would break up, right? That it would be because Trump would kick him out of the White House. But it's, I think, Elon who has realized that this is a really bad, business proposition for him. And it was Democrats, it's liberals who were buying Teslas. Like,
Yeah.
it was a very bad business decision for him. They're the ones who tend to buy electric vehicles and love Teslas. So I think that the business component played a huge role in his stepping back. But I will say, talking to Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill, obviously Democrats are thrilled that there's not going to be Elon money, as much Elon money in political campaigns in the future. But it's Republicans who are happy about it too. I did a lot of reporting a couple months ago about after the Wisconsin, do you remember the Wisconsin
Yeah.
judicial race, and how he spent, 20 to $40 million there?
Yeah, and then like went in and put a cheese hat on and was pretending like that was super relatable. I remember that.
Yeah, totally. And so, but Republicans were watching that really closely, even though that was a general election. They noticed that Elon was politically toxic there, and that they didn't want Elon associated with the Republican brand. And they also realized that, okay, maybe Elon's money can't actually buy a seat. The Republican judicial candidate lost in that race. And so there was a lot of relief from Republicans too, that Elon Musk's power has disintegrated, especially his political power.
Yeah, I have had so many conversations like in private with different people in Republican circles talking about just like it's everything. It's like his personal life and making it so, open for everybody where it's quite bizarre to be a neonatalist trying to impregnate as many women as possible and then like not be fathers to them. I only need him talking about this because he made it everybody's business, but it's quite
Totally.
strange. Very anti, conservative family dynamics that people traditionally espouse. I also think in politics, it's extremely important to be charming or have a personality that people can relate to. So I never got it. I was like, Elon is like so not for me at all. Do you think that he spent $277 million the last election? Do you think that he like understands the kind of damage he's done to his company? Do you think it was like shareholders that came to him that were like, hey, you're like Tesla and Starlink or whatever, maybe gonna have real damage done to them? Because he seemed to really be enjoying. I went to the White House earlier this year when my, not to name drop, my friend Tulsi Gabbard was sworn in the Oval Office, and he was there with like his kids and baby mamas or a baby, I don't remember. And I remember being like, it's so like he's just here. It was like the White House is Disneyland and he's there like to go on the ride. Like it didn't feel very serious. Do you think all
Yeah.
of that played into it? That was just my impression of it.
Yeah, I think it really came down to his businesses. They had I can't remember exactly if it was like a shareholder meeting or like that quarterly report where he had lost hundreds of billions of dollars. And Tesla was doing extremely poorly. And so I think it played a huge role. And then the board was looking for a new CEO, because he was like an absent leader of the company. And so I think that was really, really played a big role in his decision. But what is going to be interesting though is how much his businesses end up benefiting from his relationship with the White House. Obviously, he has billions of dollars of government contracts throughout the government and is seeking more. And so we don't know how that's going to be finalized yet, but it's something that we're obviously watching over the next year or two as like appropriations and these government contracts continue.
Um, Puck is such an amazing organization. I pay and subscribe to it, and I do because we've been like fans of Puck for a really long time. We've had a bunch of people who have write for you guys on there. Sorry, Miranda, you can jump into. I keep like bogarting the conversation. Puck is doing something right where a lot of startups are doing wrong in a sense that it's like original reporting, really interesting writers. We always find something buzzy from the newsletter. Since you've joined, I just always love talking to journalists like you about this. Like, what makes you chase a story? Like, what differentiates that? Like, because you have really good gossip and really good reporting in your newsletter. And what is it? Is it just like great sources? Is it just doing it so long? Like, how do you pick what you're going to chase?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for that. I have always a constant anxiety that I don't know enough and I don't
Same.
know, like my reporting's not good enough. So I really
Not at
appreciate
all.
So yeah, it is. So the interesting thing about Puck, which I didn't totally realize until I started, which is why I think it's such a differentiator too. The reporters are extremely experienced. I'm in my mid 40s and I am among the younger, like one of the youngest writers there because they really value expertise and they want the reporters, writers' expertise to be part of the coverage as well. Something that is valued at other news organizations, but not always utilized in the actual writing for readers. Like we're able to write in a way that not only is scoopy and newsy, but also extremely explanatory of like why this matters and what's actually going on, and even giving some sort of like bullshit reality check as well too. And so, yeah, so I think that is something that is really invaluable for Puck and something that I really enjoy. and that they really push us to do. But yeah, I'm always on the search for more sources, and I think that getting back to the experience thing, it's just like years of building these sources in town and around my beat that really helps to like inform the coverage. And I am definitely, not to keep going on, but I'm definitely a reporter who like has to talk to people.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of old school in that way. So I think that helps me personally.
Miranda, anything else you want to ask? I know you got to go in a minute, Leanne. So
Oh gosh, you have the list of questions. You got
she
me.
doesn't. Okay, that's fine. Leanne, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. Come back when you have more time. You can follow Leanne's work at, like we were just saying, at Puck, or on X at LA Caldwell DC, and on Instagram, Leanne Caldwell DC. And like I said, I love everybody subscribe to Puck. It's really very good. And I agree, for normies who don't live inside the Beltway, it's a very good rundown of things in a really concise, like digestible way. It's not so wonky you can't read it.
And it's not
Yeah.
just political. There's all kinds of really good fashion
Yeah.
and entertainment news and all kinds of stuff. So it's good.
Yeah, I'm learning so much about like Hollywood and high-end fashion that I had no idea about. So,
It's like a
well, you
college
guys, thank you
education.
so much for,
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
I'm
Come
ready.
back anytime.
Okay.
Thank you,
great.
Leanne.
Bye.
Bye. And just a reminder to raise your digital hand if you have a question for me or Miranda. Do we have any questions or no? Not one. You guys, not
on,
one
guys.
digital hand. Where's Ray Marcano when I need him?
It's not a
Okay.
long
Oh, wait,
interview
we do
today.
have one. I'm so sorry. Yes. Thank you so much. Can we, really quick?
Who do
We do.
have?
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking a question. What would you like to talk about? And what is his name?
Maybe a comment or two and a question, particularly for Megan. And the comment, and I was just reacting to your adjective icky about all this, the Biden thing, and I agree with you. It is icky,
We do. Okay.
right? It is because look, they kept something that was hidden that should have been public, which is mental acuity, and they're actually opening up things that should actually be more private. Their cancer diagnosis, right? Right? Because we don't really need that, outside of the cancer diagnosis, whether it was discovered recently or before, right? It should not be actually, be part of the conversation, because then it opens up another whole avenue of issues that's going to cloud up everything. And that's where I'm sort of making this more icky, because there's this crisis, right? This cancer diagnosis, and they're using it for something, right? They're using it as a shield, a deflector, right? This is an important, it's a disease, it's a crisis, it's a, life and death situation, and they're using this for their political gain in a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's, to
yeah,
me, it's very icky, right? That's why it's icky, and I feel really bad for, the Joe Biden, who's suffering from this, as well as the family. I agree with you, because the reason I do this, I feel that way because I'm a cancer surgeon, right? I've taken
you
care
are.
of cancer patients. Yeah, I've for 20 years. So, I've been in that office space where I have these difficult conversations.
Is his
And
diagnosis very poor?
so this is so prostate cancer, as you heard, is an indolent disease. So people can live for sometimes a decade. Okay. Now his is what's known as Gleason 9, which means this is a more of a poorly differentiated. So they're the more aggressive kind. However, and not only that, this prostate cancer had metastasized to the spine, the bones, which is the most common place where they metastasize to. But if you look at 100 of these patients, their 5-year survival rate is about 30-40%, maybe around that time, right? Whereas some really aggressive cancer, their 5-year survival is single digit, 1%, 5%. So those are the really, really aggressive type, like the pancreatic cancer or brain cancer, right? But this is sort of in that in between side, and it's still treatable still, right?
Mhm.
There is from, I didn't see all the reports, but it's hormone sensitive. No, in other words, he can be treated with medical treatments for this. We call
Would
it medical
you,
castration. So it's
is it,
still
sorry.
treatable. Yeah, yeah.
Would it be difficult for you to believe that he had just been diagnosed?
Oh, yeah. I don't think so, but this is pure speculation, right? I don't
Mhm.
want to go. I didn't want to wade into that side. So someone like him, right? That's another issue, right? This should have been sort of a private issue that's not really affecting the other aspects of his legacy. But yeah, I find it somewhat hard to believe that this was something that's recently discovered.
He
There's still a possibility. In other words, there's like a few percent chance that this was discovered recently, because these poorly differentiated or this type of prostate cancer, they tend not to have some of these prostate cancer do not have PSA that's elevated. That is a true statement. Okay, not
Well, he
that's
hadn't
not very
even had
there's
a
very low.
PSA test in over a decade, so they
Right.
weren't even
But
testing him for it.
yeah, we don't know that though, right? They
We
didn't say
do.
that.
The White House
Yeah,
doctor just came
I
out
see.
yesterday and
Oh, I see. I see.
confirmed it.
I see. So it's very implausible for me. But as the other physicians and some of the other media sites have noted, so I'm not, that I cannot really. It's just more opinion than fact at this
Do we
point.
know why they wouldn't
Right?
have been testing him even when he was running for president? Don't they do
Oh,
a full physical, a full rundown? Like, why wouldn't they have tested him back in
yeah, yeah. If
2023?
from an individual level, right? If this is not a president of the United States or a high profile person, there is a reason not to do a PSA at
Right.
this age, right? There's a clear reason, because if it was negative at age 74, and it's purely chance now. There's the likelihood of Joe Biden getting a prostate cancer so low, or having a PSA benefiting him on getting a prostate cancer, is minimal. In other words, even if he has an elevation of PSA at, say, age 80, right? Even with the diagnosis of prostate cancer, not this kind, but your more common type, they don't do anything actually. They found that even not treating this aggressively, as opposed to not doing anything, has the same survival rate.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's another reason for not getting the PSA test when they're that old. Okay, so there are some rational, reasonable medical reason for not getting a PSA at a certain age, but for a normal individual, and that's the conversation that I would have with the patient, right? But then the other aspect of this conversation is, right? People are saying that we as Americans have a right to know, and that's I have no disagreement with that, but there's this component that we should reframe this. There's an obligation, right, as a leader of a company, a major company, right? It's not a rights issue; it's an obligation issue, right? Because I've taken care of CEOs in major companies, okay, and they go through basically these executive medical exams. They're usually healthy, and because their health is so important, they go through everything that's not even on the list. In other words, they get CT scans they get scans up the wazoo. So, and partly because as a leader of a big organization, they have an obligation to go through all these things. And as a president of the United States, yes, I think he should have actually addressed this if he had discovered earlier, and to go through all the medical exams that's pertinent. Like major hospitals have these executive medical programs where they get uh, scans that usually not recommended by guidelines.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's where I stand. But in the end, I felt icky. I
Yeah.
completely agree with you, right? When I had to reduce everything, Megan, I felt icky just as you were.
It's
Well,
kind of like, what does his
Dr.
cancer
Young,
have to do
yeah.
with his mental decline? Yeah.
Well, I also
Um,
feel like again, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be reflection and understanding of reporting that wasn't done by the mainstream media during the time of President Biden's presidency. Part of the reason why I work at two-way and not at mainstream media is because I get to work with people like Mark Halperin, who, was the first person to report when President Biden was dropping out when he was running for
yeah,
president originally. It's like I like working in independent media in general because I think so much of both sides are so, their bias comes into play. But there is something about this. Like I don't know if you saw this, but like Jake Tapper and Hunter Biden are feuding because Jake Tapper is denying allegations that he reached out to Hunter Biden for a scoop when his brother Beau lay dying of brain cancer in 2015. But Hunter Biden came out on the record on Wednesday, flatly contradicting it. And he said that Tapper had repeatedly called him during Beau's final days at Walter Reed Medical Center, according to multiple sources close to the Biden family. And it's like, I just feel like, we're reliving the darkest moments of President Biden's life,
Yeah.
of the Biden family's life. And does Jake Tapper feel good about that? Like, do you feel good right now? Like,
If you look at his face, he doesn't look like he feels good about what he's doing.
This should be private. This should be, there's obviously certain things that should be public, right?
I agree.
His dementia should have been public up front. And I'm glad people like yourself, Mark, Halpern, and other folks have done this. But at this point, this should have been left private. And that's why I was sort of upset, just as you guys are feeling.
But I think we're a little bit in the minority, like, because what I'm seeing is like Democrats who are, like, yes, we should have been talking about this, and Republicans who are obviously dunking and saying like, this is I'm not saying it's not a big, scandal. It obviously is, but I just think the humanity of this conversation is being left out in it. Doctor, do you have anything else to say before we say goodbye? Thank you so much for asking this question and giving us your insight.
No, I'll be joining in and raising my hand as much as I can.
Come back anytime. You're a delight. Thank you so
talking to
much.
you.
And I believe we have another question, correct? From Kate. Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks. Huge fan. First time Zoomer.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have you. Where are you from?
I'm from upstate New York, but I'm hiding in my bunker because I'm in a very liberal place in a very liberal state, and I work in higher ed. So
okay, you gotta be safe.
We say no more. We hear you.
Right, but I work with wonderful people, but still. And before I ask my question, I just want to say that I have a daughter who looks exactly like you. And when she pulls her hair back and wears black glasses, she could literally be your twin, and her name is Megan.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And she lives in DC and just got engaged this weekend. So
congratulations. I love that.
Yeah. I would show her a picture, but she'd be mortified.
Yeah, send us a DM. I'm curious. I'm nosy.
Oh, I will. Okay, I will. Although all the pictures I have in my office are old, but I really appreciated the doctor's point, and I also appreciate your point because I feel icky as well. I do think though that this is an environment that they created. If they hadn't behaved the way they behaved and hid so much from the American people, they wouldn't be in this position. But that still doesn't make it right. Two rights don't make a wrong. I think my question for you is, and I've watched the Jake Tapper tour. I watched him on Megyn Kelly, him and Alex Thompson yesterday, and I've been following the coverage. I almost feel like it's being used as an excuse by people who should be held accountable. I think there may be criminal accountability, certainly political accountability. Where do people go to get their apologies? Where do we go to get our trust back? They're almost using it as an excuse, like, well, it's out there and it was bad and we shouldn't have done it. And they're already kind of moving on in terms of not really changing behavior. So I guess my question for you is, do you think this will cause some sort of change in how journalists conduct their business? But before you answer that, I just want to say I'm 56 and I've been following politics since I was, I don't know, like 10 years old. By the way, my dad was a big fan of your dad's, and he's a Marine Corps veteran.
Thank you.
He passed away from cancer 3 years ago. But actually went to see your dad speak when your dad was campaigning and came through this area. But so I've been my whole life just having to be quiet and see what I feel is this double standard in the media, in Hollywood, now in education, K through 12, I work in higher ed. And I just feel that, when Trump had COVID, when Trump was shot, they were ridiculing him. It didn't really hit his ear. It's a fake bandage.
Yeah, horrible.
Now, granted, it's nowhere near as serious as what President Biden is facing, and my prayers go out to him. I totally just respect him because he was president. But it's like we try to do the right thing, but we still always get crapped on. It's always this double standard, no intellectual honesty. And it frustrates me to see people like Jake Tapper. And I just don't feel like they really get it or do feel badly about how they've behaved. So I guess my question for you is, do you think this will have any impact down the road?
Well, thank you for your questions and thank you for all your kind words. For people that don't know, because I know you watched it and Miranda and I watched it, but I do want to show, because we were going to get to this clip of Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, on the Megyn Kelly show, where she's basically saying what you're saying, that he allowed it. Number 4, and then I will answer your questions and we'll get into this. But I just want to show people what you're talking about. Number 4, please.
But as you know, Megyn, because even though you look 30 years younger than me, we're roughly the same age. Joe Biden has been saying stupid things for decades. Okay,
I get what you're saying, but this minimizes it too, because it was more than saying stupid things. But I'm telling you, like over here in my ecosphere, we were covering all of these. It wasn't just falling down; it was getting lost. It was some of the stuff you report in your book. We knew, and we were reporting on, like the multi-jump cuts in the videos of him, where it was obvious he couldn't get through a 1-minute take. So they had to use those. It was clear to us that he was using teleprompter and there was some reporting on that at the time, all of which the White House was denying. Now, with the current White House, I have some connections. With the Joe Biden White House, I had none, but you did. You did. And so while you've been in Washington 30 years, Jake, you guys, you and CNN have White House connections, but there was no effort. None to get to the bottom of this. And now for you guys to write this book, like there was a cover up. It's like there was a cover up and there was an attempted cover up. It could only ever work if you allowed it.
So I think 2 things are true. I agree with what you said earlier, Kate, that the reason why the Bidens are in this situation is because of an environment that they created of lying, of malfeasance, of covering up. And there's lots of things in this book about them, even small things like taking people out of, I guess it was common to have people in elevators in the White House and they removed people from the elevators, I guess, so President Biden couldn't be seen, having a very insulated group of people around them. Like they did a lot of really stupid things. And they made a lot of really huge mistakes. That being said, I do believe, I don't have anything to back it up. I just believe from my experience in media, I do believe Jake Tapper knew a lot of things he didn't report on, that he refused to report on, that he just from his own bias. And I know he said he has since apologized to Laura Trump, but there's an extremely damaging clip of him yelling at Laura Trump when she brings up President Biden's cognitive decline. And I echo your frustration, Kate. Like, it's exhausting. I agree. The lack of compassion shown towards President Trump after he was almost killed was horrific. And the fact that I always say, like, President Trump could cure cancer and people on CNN and on Abby Phillips' panel would have a problem with the way he did it. So I completely agree. But my anger today is that I think Jake Tapper is trying to whitewash his record the past few years. And he's trying to get all of us, Miranda, you, me, Kate, Ashley, everybody on this Zoom, everyone on this call, everybody listening, everyone in the world to think that he was one of the good guys and he wasn't. He's one of the bad guys. And I just worry that he's going to be able to successfully do this. And next time around, let me tell you, if there's a hugely popular Obama figure that has that level of popularity in the Democratic Party, you can't count on Jake Tapper to report on it in an accurate way. You can't count on anything to happen. If there's another cover up of any kind, you can only count on him after it. When the water's safe, when Biden's unpopular, when he's fucking dying, that's when it's okay for him to do it. And maybe he's not dying because that's maybe extreme, but he has very serious cancer and he's an elderly man. And he's in a situation health-wise that is not ideal. So I rescind that because I don't know for a fact that he's dying, but like, it's not a great time. And I just, like I said, Jake could have been reporting on this for a year. He could have been reporting on this for 5 years. He chose not to. He chose now, after Alex Thompson, by the way, did do that reporting. And now, he's doing it while Biden has cancer. And I know Biden came out and said he had cancer during a time people are assuming he did it to change the conversation. That is probably accurate. I don't know any of this for a fact, but I can't help it. I feel bad for the Biden family right now. I can't help it. And I know that they lie and I know they do this themselves and I understand it. I don't know. I just can't imagine going through cancer treatment with my beloved grandfather or father at the same time, a tell-all book that no one can stop talking about is around. And to get to your final question, Kate, will the media learn? I don't think so. Look at how they're covering Trump. But what I do think is the silver lining is that they have less and less power and less influence now than they ever have. Like, I get asked to go on cable news, like, not infrequently, and I always am like, respectfully, what's the point? No one's watching you. Nobody cares. It's time away from my children where I have to get hair and makeup and spend like 4 hours so I can get screamed at for being a Republican. Nobody cares. So I don't think they're going to change, but I do think when you see the rise of other people in independent media, I mean, Megyn Kelly has her own show and her own platform that she created all on her own, and she's one of the biggest people in all of media, hands down. And she's ripping their asses open, and I enjoyed every minute. Sorry to bloviate.
Nope.
Anything, Kate or Miranda,
And
you want to add?
interestingly, Megyn Kelly grew up literally down the road from here. Yeah. So she went to high school with my cousins. So I followed her as well. But
she did a really good job with that yesterday. Like,
do you think Jake's going to get canned from CNN? I mean,
they'll have him debate. They'll have him moderate the next debate. He'll probably.
But how can anybody trust him? His journalistic integrity is so shot. Like, even I, as a independent, as a moderate, like I look at him and I'm just disgusted by just him and his talking. I can't believe anything that he has to say. Even if he was covering like a space launch, I wouldn't believe what he was talking about. So, and he
keeps saying, "I have humility in my reporting."
I have that.
But again, like, respectfully, Kate, like, we have a small internet show and podcast. I mean, we do, well for what it is, but I don't work for, but I don't work for corporate media. I don't have like, I don't know, the corporation that owns CNN, Disney, I think owns CNN. I don't remember, behind them. And it's like Megyn Kelly said, like, every resource, every connection to the White House, you work for a giant conglomerate. And like, you missed a story that Miranda and I have been talking about for 4 years. You decided not to report it.
We just have eyeballs and we can see.
Yeah.
Like, that's
we just watched clips.
And Mark Halperin even said he was seeing it in 2017, and he has plenty of contacts.
Yeah.
And he was talking behind the scenes with important people. I think that was like, my whole question to you. I guess I was trying to get hope where I know there is no hope, but I just feel like they're just going to gaslight this Miranda. They're going to say, "Oh, look how courageous Jake is admitting he was wrong."
Ew.
And then move on, and it's like, but if it was the reverse, if it was a Republican president who had hid this, my gosh.
And Kate, I don't want to diminish what you're saying, because I think it's very valid and very accurate that if this were President Trump and his family covering up his health, there would be like, there would probably be like,
and a Republican journalist like a Jesse Waters who covered up for Trump. He'd be out on the street. He'd be
totally done. Fox would definitely clean house if they're
and he'd never get a comeback. He wouldn't get to have a web show that was popular. He'd be out.
Yeah. So I don't diminish that. And to say that there's not still an extreme bias, there obviously is. I mean, remember when Trump like drank water weird and everyone was melting down? Like, it's like ridiculous. And he's obviously, whatever you want to say about President Trump, he's clearly in great health. I mean, people say he only like sleeps 3 hours a night and he's like, doing events all day long. So I don't know. I'm I don't want you to be frustrated or upset, but I feel validated that you share the same emotions that I do. And I don't want to read any more work from Jake Tapper. I'm really done with this, because again, he's taking credit and making what can I assume is at least $1 million. I don't know for a fact, but that's just what I would estimate he would be paid for this, off of work that we all did and were called ghouls and unkind, and that I was
conspiracy theorists.
Yes.
Crazy.
4 years, Kate.
Nasty.
Yes.
And he said he apologized to Laura
over
Trump
in their graves. Yeah.
But he hasn't done it publicly. I mean, I won't buy the book. It's disgusting.
Don't buy none of us are buying that book. Kate, thank you so much for your kind words and calling, and do it again anytime soon. Say hello to your daughter and congratulations.
And send us a picture. I want to see
DM you a picture.
Send a picture. I love it.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why would we buy a book based on reporting we've already been doing for
I know. There is some details in it that are interesting. I didn't quite know that Jill Biden had the influence that she had and was basically the only person in control. What I also think is interesting, and we have another guest coming up in one moment, but God, we had so many other topics to get to.
I know.
This just sucked everything up. And we have an update on the Annabelle doll. We're going to have to go a little longer to get the update. I'm so sorry.
Can we please stay long to do the Annabelle story?
I'm sorry, you guys. We have to do this Annabelle doll update because it's
listen.
It's really important.
You listen to me right now. I stayed up till 2:00 in the morning doing the Annabelle research. We're doing the Annabelle story.
We're doing the Annabelle story. It's fine. Also, I would just like to say, we're going to get to it, but the Annabelle doll is on tour. and our like amazing renegade producer Ashley has potentially offered to go visit it. So
shut the fuck up.
But she should bring holy water
Pennsylvania
with her. It's close. I mean, I don't want to give away where you live, but it's,
I'm not gonna,
it's a reasonable distance she could make it. So, and she would be our Annabelle doll correspondent. So we're going to stay heavy on that beat.
I'm so
right
jealous.
Here.
Where she's going is so haunted too. I can't.
I know. You're also going to a haunted area of the country. The last thing I want to say on the Jake Tapper thing, and then we're going to move on. The greatest piece of, and it's not gossip because it's out in the world, but the greatest factoid about his book tour is that Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson hired Risa Heller. For those of you who don't know who that is, she's like a major political crisis PR person, like a scandal fixer, like to give you an example, her previous clients include Elizabeth Holmes, the one drop blood lady who's in jail, and Anthony Weiner, just to put it in perspective. And Anthony Weiner, who, put his boner on the internet and lost running for mayor. So
like
there
Diddy
you go.
probably should have hired her. Like
it's like people like that. But
lady.
Again, like, is your book, do you think things are going well if you have to hire Risa Heller, who I assume who I assume is extremely expensive to work for you? But like, why does your book need a crisis PR person?
If your job description has crisis in it at all, and you're like not an emergency room doctor, I don't think that's you need to be calling someone like that unless you're in a situation, because what's going on with your life that you need a crisis anything? You're a journalist. My goodness.
I totally agree. But I just thought that was like a really interesting anecdote. Is Amber here? Okay, great. So we're going to move on to our next. We had so many other I have so much political news to talk to. That's why we're going to start expanding the show to 3 days a week.
And 4 hours long. Yeah.
Yeah, for 9 hours, we do nothing but live stream. Amber, thank you so much. We have Amber Barbach, who is the founder and director of the Glioblastoma Research Organization. Amber is a friend. She has an incredible podcast and does really incredible work. And a reminder to everyone, this is Brain Tumor Awareness Month, and the Glioblastoma Research Organization has collaborated with Hugimals World on a limited edition Soothing Gray Heart to Hug pillow. It's a 5-pound heart-shaped weighted pillow designed to ease stress and offer comfort to anyone who might need it. The soft gray color represents awareness for glioblastoma and brain cancer, and 10% of all proceeds go directly to support their research. I have one. I'm going to take a picture and put it on my social. I just haven't yet. Amber, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. First and foremost, your life and your work is dedicated to bringing awareness to brain tumors. What does this month mean to you? And is it difficult focusing so much on glioblastoma, given that it is such an intense and horrible cancer? And last final thing, Amber and I both lost our fathers to glioblastoma.
Well, thanks, Megan. Good to see you again, and thanks for having me on the show. So yes, May is Brain Tumor Awareness Month, and it's interesting because if you're in the brain tumor space, I think you typically think that every month should be Brain Tumor Awareness Month, but someone that actually works in the space, it's really nice that it gets that recognition, although we do our best efforts every single day to make sure that every day is raising awareness and helping raise funds to find a cure eventually, so that no one has to go through what Megan and I both went to in losing our fathers. So it's really unique and I think interesting to see how the conversation continuously grows, to see that year after year there are more people getting involved with brain tumor awareness and advocacy, and that every May a lot happens. Every year we launch many more partnerships, and even with this new Hugimals partnership, so much grows every single year. So we're really grateful for that. And I think a lot of other outside companies and people that aren't typically in the brain tumor space are starting to be like, hey, this is actually really important. So I think from an advocacy perspective, it's really special to see that a lot more people that wouldn't typically be involved in the brain tumor space are getting involved. And it's an honor to be able to do this work. I love it. It's, my background stems from marketing, partnerships, and creative. And to be able to bring that to the cancer space, I think is really unique, because the goal is to inspire the next generation of fundraisers. I'm turning 30, we want to be able to create resources for people that are younger and to make getting involved with brain tumor research, not this incredibly heavy topic, although it is. The goal is to make it more relatable and to bring in brands. We have a nationwide partnership with Van Leeuwen Ice Cream, where 10% of proceeds of their Earl Grey tea flavor come to us. So just bringing in really cool brands to really cool stuff for a really great cause is so. That's kind of what we're working on right now, and
I love Van Leeuwen
busy
Ice
month.
Cream.
They're so good. Yeah, we just did a
So
launch
good.
with them in New York. They're amazing. So if you go to any nationwide store and get their Earl Grey tea flavor, during May, it'll benefit us.
Can I ask you, you do a podcast on this topic. Do you ever find it difficult? Like, I am fine talking about glioblastoma to a point, but there are certain times in my life where I'm like, like when people ask me if I'm like out at dinner, like, trying to just like tie one off and like be distracted, where I'm like, I don't know if I can talk about this right now because I'm going to end up crying and it's very intense. Like, how do you keep yourself, healthy and sane and sort of making sure that all this intensity doesn't consume you?
I mean, so yeah, like you said, Megan, I do this every single day for a living. It's not something that I ever would have expected to do. So glad that I do it, but it's not where I definitely like, imagine my life going whatsoever. I think because I'm so ingrained in it every single day that some emotion is less intense just because I mean it's quite literally my entire life. What I like to do to kind of disconnect is to travel. I'm currently abroad. So I definitely take time for myself where I try to disconnect for whether it's a couple hours and do something that's completely different. Um, I try to, because it's such a big part of my identity, I really do make a lot of an effort to, do other things like whether it's traveling or being really social or meeting people or going for bike rides to completely disconnect from what I'm doing because it is just such a big part of my day-to-day life. But I love it. And as intense as it is, I'm super grateful to be able to do the work, but I definitely obviously think it's important because it's such a heavy topic to find that time to be able to just completely shut everything off and just disconnect, which I think everyone should do in every industry that you're in. I mean, life gets hard a lot of times, and if you're not taking time for yourself, it's not easy in anything that you're doing.
That's definitely true. Some of this data that we brought up is very staggering. I didn't know that 90,000 people a year are diagnosed with primary brain tumors in the United States alone. I didn't know there's no early screening tests. This happened with my dad. By the time the symptoms showed up, he had headaches and he was like speaking, slurring. It was the tumor was advanced. And it says that that's quite common. And research funding lags far behind. I did know that about brain cancer, that it receives only a fraction of it, despite it being a sort of like high profile cancer, like many people have gotten it. What would you say to people who want to support, who want to bring awareness to brain cancer, and who want to just, make sure that this relentless cancer has hope for people in the future to make progress with research?
I think the first and most important thing is just starting a conversation. I think, like you said, it's a very heavy topic, and some people are really uncomfortable talking about brain cancer. And because it's something that I do every single day, it's not as difficult to talk about for me, but I think people get like scared of the topic. It's uncomfortable. It's not like a very it's brain cancer. It's very challenging. And so I think the more people that we get comfortable talking about it, the more that raises awareness, the more that we can get people involved with the cause. And it's as simple as that. I mean, breast cancer, for example, you see a pink ribbon, everyone knows what that is, but you see a gray ribbon and people are like, what does that mean? So the more people that can get comfortable talking about breast cancer, brain cancer, the way that breast cancer has been done in our society, I think it'll be a huge win for the brain tumor community because that'll drive more awareness, more resources, more funding to hopefully, again, get to a cure. But it really just starts with awareness. And that's what we do every single day in the effort to bring people to care about the cause that maybe would have not otherwise.
What do you think your dad would think of this, you dedicating your life to this?
Oh my God, I feel like he'd either be so happy or so mad. I have no idea. I mean, he didn't like sign up for this. I mean, I've made his life completely public and shared about it. But he also like if you like Google his name, he has a bunch of like YouTube videos. He was a chiropractor, so it has like a lot of he like loved being on film. So I feel like he would like it, but I have no idea. I think he'd be proud. I was always very entrepreneurial. I got that from him. He was always thinking of starting businesses like on his deathbed. He's like, I'm going to start a mold detection company. And I was like, that's interesting. Interesting choice of where we're going. But yeah, I think he would be proud of it. I mean, I'm really proud of where the organization's come so far. In the last 7 years, we've raised over $2.5 million, have funded 11 research projects. So, and it's crazy to think that if I hadn't done this, this wouldn't be here. So I think
Mhm.
that's a really cool, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's just like if you want change, you kind of have to do it. So I'm pretty proud of where we're at.
Um, is there anything, Miranda is a cancer survivor, not brain cancer, but obviously it's close to the cancer
Yeah.
community. Anything you want to ask Amber?
I just want to thank you for all your work. And, my mom had a brain, I don't know if I ever told you this, my mom had a brain tumor. It was benign, but it was behind her eye. And I almost wish that there was a better way, like you're saying, Amber, to get people to go to the doctor and get the scans and maybe it can be part of, I don't know, a screening and I know that they're expensive, but a screening when you get your physical, because the only way that she knew that she had her brain tumor was because it was affecting her vision. She went to her eye doctor, and it was pressing against her eye, and her vision was like, she needed trifocals, and her doctor thought that was strange, and she went and got a scan, and it was around her optic nerve. So she had her tumor removed. It was saved her eye, saved her brain. So anyway, all this to say, it's like brain cancer, there's all different kinds of tumors and spots that it can affect you. So is this possible? You think that this could be part of routine screenings, or is it just that's way too advanced of a test?
I think everyone that you ask is going to have a different opinion. I'm personally like a hypochondriac, so I'm not the best person to ask. Like, I get routine MRIs. I love to know everything that could potentially be wrong. Like, I want to know everything before it happens. I'm super type A. That's how I am. Some people are like, ignorance is bliss. If something happens, we deal with it then. That's an option too. Also, there's over 120 different types of brain tumors. So, glioblastoma is usually detected as a grade 4. And I think that's just because of like the way that the cells are made up and like the I don't know the proper verbiage for that, but like the way like when they're cultured, like they're already at a grade 4. You might be able to detect a lower grade tumor. There's so many types. I think it really depends on like if you want to know, if you want to put your money there. I think there are a couple screening test companies like Pronuvo that are out there right now that do full body MRIs. You can just do like head and neck, but they're pricey at the moment. I think other companies are starting to come in and prices are coming down. But I mean, if it were up to me, I would like love, I do it personally, and that's what I would say is like get checked every couple of years. But that's just someone coming from a father that died of a brain tumor.
Yeah.
But I think it really just depends on like what you're comfortable with.
Three women with parents who had brain tumors. My goodness. I mean,
right.
It's got to be more common than people realize.
Totally.
And also when I got that, my doctor was like, if you look, you're going to find something. So like I found some like random benign stuff because like you're scanning your entire body. Like there will be something at some point, so it just depends on like how comfortable you are knowing what's going on.
Well, Amber, I really appreciate you coming on. Amber is obviously the founder and director of the Glioblastoma Research Organization. Can you tell people where to find you, where to go to donate, where to listen to your podcast, all of the things?
Absolutely. So we're on any social media platform at Glioblastoma Research. It's a little gray brain that's hand-drawn. If you look really closely, it's really cool. Our website is gbmresearch.org, and there you'll be able to find any link to our podcast, which is actually now a documentary series. We just launched it a couple of weeks ago. We're really excited for season 4.
That's awesome.
And anything is on, thank you. We're so excited. So yeah, anything on our social media, donate link, fundraising page, people can make their own fundraisers. We have a really big event in New York coming up on June 6th, if anyone's in the area. It's a casino night fundraiser. So yeah, lots going on. Again, if you're in the US, there's Van Leeuwen's all across the country. Go check it out. 10% of proceeds come to us. So there's lots of ways to get involved, and even just sharing and spreading the word makes a huge difference. So thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Get the Soothing Gray Heart to Hug pillow. I will, like I said, it's from Hugimals World, and I will put it on my social media. I have it at home. It's wonderful. And 10% of proceeds go directly to support the research efforts. Amber, you're an angel. Come back anytime if you want to talk about brain cancer, glioblastoma, or literally anything else. You can come back on anytime.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Amber. Thank you.
Bye.
And just a reminder, it is Brain Tumor Awareness Month. So if you want to wear gray or a little gray pin,
I wore my gray.
Yes, I didn't. I guess I'm the worst. But right before we go, I know we're going a little late, but we did say that we wanted to talk about the Annabelle doll. And this is, like I said, it's extremely important to Miranda and I. So for people that don't know, the Annabelle doll is based off of the Conjuring movies, like inspired the Conjuring movies.
TC drew a picture of the Annabelle doll for us.
Oh my gosh, she did. That's a good rendering of it.
She's homesick. She drew Annabelle for us.
Thank you. We want to show this clip. So the Annabelle doll, we're following this closely. She's on tour. She's in San Antonio. She drew, this is crazy, 1,200 occult fans to the Psychic and Spirit Fest at the Black Swan Inn in one of the city's most haunted spots. We want to show you this clip right now. I believe there's like quiet audio. Okay. So this is Father Bob Bailey, a local priest who specializes in exorcisms, and he's blessing spectators before they meet Annabelle, and TikTok has lost its mind over the doll's arrival with over 10 million views on a teaser clip. So it's not just us. Look at this. Can I tell you, I would never, ever see this Annabelle doll.
People paid a ton of money to go and stand in line for hours in the Texas.
Look at them throwing the holy water everywhere. Let's show that clip again. We'll talk and keep showing that clip.
Yeah, we'll
it's
just
so good.
Play it on a loop, please.
Keep that clip on a loop. The
Annabelle
doll.
TikTokers were going insane. It took me so long to find a good clip for us because there were so many good ones. There was a woman who was like analyzing my hand. A woman was like analyzing the Texas news, and she's like, there was a man and he came back from seeing Annabelle and he crashed his car and it got hit by a tree. I'm like, how do you know he went and saw Annabelle? Like, maybe he just crashed his car. But everyone was going insane. And I'd like to report this because I want to jump on you. As they were leaving Texas, they drove back through Louisiana to head back to Connecticut before she makes her next stop on her Devils on the Run tour. Megan, they drove back through Louisiana, and Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen, her house caught on fire.
Oh my gosh, I hate that house, the Laveau house.
It's a historical landmark.
It's crazy. It's another place.
Have you been there? I've not been.
I've been on the walk-in ghost tour of New Orleans, and yes, we went by it, and it's scary. And for people that don't know, like, again, New Orleans is a place that, like, I enjoy visiting, and it's fine, but there's a lot of very dark and intense energy there. And yeah, that house caught on fire when the Annabelle doll was there. I just don't know why you want it coming to your town. I just don't even like. I'm uncomfortable with the idea that this doll is being transported in any kind of car or truck or whatever across the country. Like, anything could happen.
Yeah.
Like, someone could steal it.
The car could have a horrible wreck. I mean, why would you want to drive with the Annabelle? But I mean, I guess that's better than bringing her on a plane. Like, you have to fly private.
Drivers driving it. Like, they're comfortable with this?
The guys that own her. They're like she's their ward. I don't
know
what the terms are. These guys that work for the Warren Museum. It's like it's Ryan Buell. I don't know them enough to know. I don't know this world enough. But it's like, imagine you're on a plane and you find out Annabelle is on the same plane as you. Like, I think I would throw up.
I would be like, "Get
me off, get me off, get me off."
Oh, I would have a nervous break. I could not handle that. I would really. I would have to
break down. I'd have swallow my whole bottle of Xanax. There's no way I would be able to make it through the plane.
I'd be like, Miranda, we have a group chat with our people that work on the show. That chat would be blowing up. I'd be like, hey,
you know how you hear those flight stories every now and then of like people opening the emergency exit mid-flight? That would be us.
I think that motherfucker is real. Pointing in the back.
I would take my chances. Jump out of the plane. Annabelle's on the flight. And everyone would be like, oh, we get it. Yeah.
But 1,200 occult fans, so I guess you're an occult fan, and so is Ashley, went to go see the Annabelle doll. And again, I really appreciate that Father Bob Bailey was blessing the spectators, and he specialized in exorcism, so he knows. But we're going to stay tight on this because Annabelle next is making an appearance in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and then I think continuing her tour. But this haunted doll, people are going to fuck around and find out with this doll because it is one of the most haunted artifacts on the planet. Why are we doing this? Something bad is going to happen.
Some people are leaving and they're like, oh, that was very underwhelming. And other people are leaving and coming home and saying, I've got all these weird scratches on my back now. And so, it just depends on what your vibe is when you approach her. If you touch the box, you get in trouble. Like, there's all these rules when you go see Annabelle. So Ashley, don't mess around too much, but mess around like maybe a little bit so you have a story. But
Ashley's going to be like this with taking a video of herself. For it.
Yeah, shine like a flashlight in her face. Maybe piss her off a little bit.
It is May 21st. By August 21st, something extremely bad is going to happen in relations to the Annabelle doll.
There are theories. Do you want to hear the crazy theory and then we can wrap this up?
Yes.
Okay, here's the crazy theory. This is not my theory. It's what I read in my research. Okay, the Pope died and then Annabelle went on her tour. So the theory is that Annabelle is going to bring about the return of an antichrist. And I know that that's like crazy, but Annabelle being like free, which she's not supposed to be, and she was never to leave the museum and leave like her special enclosure. And they like made some special, a new case that's like a transport case. It's like, no, that's not the case she's supposed to be in. So this is like a big problem for people who are very serious with the Annabelle doll and what its significance is and all of that stuff. So they're saying that there's like a big problem with her leaving the same time that the Pope died and all this.
No kidding.
Stuff.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not an occult expert, and I'm telling you there's a problem.
Maybe we need to talk to someone who's
Actually, yeah, this is an open invitation. Any occult experts want to come on and talk about the Annabelle doll on tour, I would love to have you on.
There's a lot of people who say that the Annabelle doll is a bunch of baloney. So
no, it's not.
I don't
Stop
think
that.
it is. I don't
Stop
believe
that.
I
Everyone,
believe in
stop
I believe
that.
in the power of Annabelle. Yikes.
All right, we're going to stay tight on this topic. We'll keep covering it. If you have seen an Annabelle doll, if you went to the Psychic and Spirit Fest at the Black Swan Inn, we want to talk to you. If you are planning on going and joining Ashley in Gettysburg, we want to know that too. Basically any experience near or around the Annabelle doll,
And
we
if
want to
Jake
talk to you.
Tapper goes to see Annabelle, we will forgive him.
Yeah, we'll put the Annabelle doll at Jake Tapper's CNN.
If that's the only way you're going to get forgiveness from us is if you go see Annabelle and then you will open arms. We'll welcome you back to society.
All right, that is it for today. We went a little over again. Thank you for being patient with us. I would like to say happy birthday to my brother, Jimmy. I can't believe how old he is today. And thank you all so much for watching. We'll be back again, same time, same place on Monday.
Nope.
I'm sorry. We will not. We'll be here on Wednesday because it's Memorial Day, Wednesday and Friday. And then hopefully the week after, we're going to start doing 3 days a week, correct? I think that's where we're at. Okay.
Okay. Don't hold us to it. We'll make a formal announcement. But
thank you guys. All right. See you soon, Miranda. Bye, you guys.